Welcome back, Sebastian here. So today I'll be doing my preview for this weekend's Italian Grand Prix. So taking a look at last year's result, Max Verstappen won, with Charles Leclerc coming second and George Russell rounding out the podium for Mercedes. Some notable moments from last year's race, of course, was Alex Albon suffering appendicitis and Nick de Vries being drafted in to drive the Williams at that Grand Prix. He, of course, notably scored points on his debut, a 9th place finish, which led to him getting the AlphaTauri seat for this year. Of course, the other big moment from the race was the controversial safety car finish, with Verstappen first and Charles Leclerc behind him in second. Decent Grand Prix from what I remember, but nonetheless, let's move on to this year. So starting with the tires, it will be the hard C3, medium C4, and soft C5. So the softest tires in the Pirelli range. The Monza circuit is not particularly hard on tires, but it is a very extreme track in terms of layout. Of course, you have turns 1 and 2, which are generally the best overtaking zone, one of the better overtaking zones. Of course, going through Curva Grande to Sector 2, turn 4, 5, the second chicane is also a good spot. Maybe you can get a look down there as well. 6 and 7, more medium speed corners through the Lesmos. No overtaking opportunities there. And then, of course, through the Ascari chicane, turns 8, 9, and 10, which are, of course, you can make a pass there if you're feeling really bold into turn 8. Before, of course, we get to the very famous Parabolica. No overtaking on that straight because most likely you're going to get repassed the following turn, going down to turn 1. Of course, it's a very, very low downforce track, lowest downforce of the year, so you'll see them basically using their mailbox rear wings on this track. Of course, the side effect of that is that even though these straights are very, very long, DRS is less effective because when you open that flap, the drag, you basically don't lose as much drag as you would if you have a high downforce rear wing. Also, there's a lot of slow speed corners, so it is considered to be a rear limited circuit. So some drivers like Sergio Perez, it should suit them a bit better. Another important thing to note for this weekend is that we will be running the alternative tire allocation, which of course we first saw at the Hungarian Grand Prix, where we had to do qualifying Q1 on hards, Q2 on mediums, and Q3 on softs. It provided some pretty different results. I remember the Alfa Romeos being extremely fast on both the hards and the mediums before falling away a little bit on the softs. That being said, I think it will be a bit interesting. It makes life a bit hard for me, comparing times between teams through the sessions, but that being said, it should be a bit interesting. Now looking at this weekend's schedule and the weather, Friday FP1 is 1:30 p.m. local time, FP2 is 5 p.m. local time, so a bit late. Saturday FP3 12:30 before qualifying at 4 p.m. And then Sunday, the traditional European start time, 3 p.m. sharp. And of course, the weather is expected to be sunny all 3 days. And if that's the case, it could be the first Grand Prix without rain since Azerbaijan at the end of April, which is absolutely crazy to think about that streak, given that there's been years where we've had like very, very little wet running. I remember 2018, 2017 even, very, very few wet races. And then this year we basically had rain in either the Grand Prix or qualifying or practice every single Grand Prix since then. Now to finish up with some predictions for this weekend's Grand Prix, I think it would be silly to predict anything other than a Max Verstappen win. That being said, this has been a race where we have had some unusual results in the past. Daniel Ricciardo getting a win pretty much on pure pace in 2021 definitely comes to mind. This track is such an extreme layout. The teams do not build their cars for this track. They build their cars for the tracks that are a lot more average. So because of that, we could have the potential for a really bizarre result. Williams have definitely had this race circled on their calendar all year due to their straight line speed. That being said, they were very, very good in Zandvoort relative to how they were at some other races. But that being said, Red Bull straight line speed and DRS has been very effective. So I do think a Verstappen win is a good shout. Ferrari have been surprisingly good at these kinds of tracks. Leclerc got a pole and a podium at Baku, and Ferrari's looked very, very fast in Canada, which has similar kinds of corners to this one. Of course, there'll be a lot of home pressure as well. So I'll predict Charles Leclerc P2. And because I do think that the other three teams, the three Mercedes engine teams, Aston, Mercedes, and McLaren, generally haven't done as well on these kinds of tracks this year, on these low downforce tracks, I do think that Paris has a good chance of getting that final spot on the podium. So those are my predictions. Of course, if qualifying throws up an odd result, those could change very easily. So that's all for my preview for the Italian Grand Prix. Of course, I'll be covering Formula 2 as well. Unfortunately, for Saturday, I will be doing a race of my own, not a car race, a running race, around the same-ish time as qualifying and the sprint race for Formula 2. So those may be delayed quite a bit. But that being said, I will try to get them done as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.